Hello everyone and welcome to SkillCapped. I'm Notorious Dub and today I'm excited to bring you an in-depth guide on one of the cheesiest, satisfying, and most effective strategies in all of Valorant, wallbangs. And for this video, we're going to be focusing on the map Haven specifically and doing a full wallbang overview of the entire map and giving you a few tips along the way that will help you pick up those wallbang kips on any map by helping you understand how everything actually works. And if you're serious about improving, then go to SkillCapped.com to unlock our hyper improvement system that will teach you how to win more gunfights, master your agent, and so much more. Backed by our rank improvement guarantee, you have nothing to lose, so come join over 500,000 satisfied members of SkillCapped, improve that KDA, and get the rank you've always wanted at SkillCapped.com. Link is in the description below. Now to get us started on Haven, the map is very reliant on getting control of that middle portion of the map for the attackers, but what if at the beginning of the round, no matter where you wanted to go in mid, you were in danger of getting headshot through a wall as soon as the round started? Well, that's exactly what you can accomplish from playing Garage or B-Site. So let's start with this extremely efficient wallbang from Garage. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is situate yourself halfway between the cloth on the wall to the left and the wooden threshold of the entrance to your right. From there, you're going to want to use your mini-map to ping the area that you want to wallbang, which we'll talk about more in a bit, but in this case it's the entrance to the grass outside of Garage, and use the small rectangle underneath the midway point of the door as your lineup for the perfect headshot height. From there, just spam away and pick up those free kills. Just don't forget to book it out of there if they start to spam back through those doors. And don't forget, if you can shoot the enemies, they can shoot you too, although it is usually going to be a little bit more difficult. Now to spam back the person shooting out of Garage to grass, you can do the exact same lineup, just from the opposite direction, with your aim point being the right side of the left of the threshold just before you get to the door. But in general, without an Odin to be able to shoot through the entire wall and break down those doors whenever they try to retreat, you're usually just going to want to give up that fight and wait until the shots stop to cross that area. And speaking of the Odin, before we get too deep into the guide, we have to talk about just how strong the Odin is for wallbangs. Where the Vandal can usually get the job done, the Odin is basically a lawnmower and cuts off the area completely to the enemies. Now here we see in Garage Window, we have a pair of the most effective wallbangs in the entire game. The first one is going to go out to grass just like the last wallbang, but from a better angle that allows you to cover more area. Now the best spot here is to line yourself up where you're not exposed to the doors if someone swings on you after you're spraying down, but to use the blue light and the X on the armor of the door as your lineups. X marks the spot for the headshot height, and the enemies will be standing just to the right of that little blue light out in grass. And from there, the only place those people can run to if they want to keep fighting for mid control is to jump over those boxes to the left, and thankfully we have another lineup for that as well. For this lineup, it's as simple as the last one. Just aim at the rivet in the top left of the door and come down and to the right just slightly, and that area is where enemies will be jumping over to get into mid faster. But this is where the ping system becomes absolutely crucial for your wallbangs, because you can add these two areas together seamlessly and shut down that entire area altogether. Now whenever you're pulling off this wallbang, you want to position yourself in the exact same spot, but this time ping both of the areas that you want to spam. This is crucial for knowing where you're going to start and where you're going to end and where the enemies could be in between. So start with the farthest area on the right, which will kill them or force them onto the box, and then transfer your aim to above the other ping and kill the enemies that you force to jump over that box. Now I see so many teams unable to hold Garage, and although you're not going to want to do this every round, pulling this out and getting a couple of kills on just one round is often going to be enough to stop the enemies from coming into you altogether and cut off that entire area. And of course, really quickly, the opposite side of this has a great wallbang spot as well, arguably the best one for attacker's side, where here you have a very easy lineup. You can use your pings just to make it easy on yourself, but line yourself up where an enemy can't peek out of Garage and see you. And from there, the left of the blue light, just like the reverse angle, and the right at the edge of the threshold of the top is the entirety of the space that the window is going to take up, and spamming that entire area gives you the best chance at snagging a kill, starting with the far left, which is the most common spot for enemies to play. And once again, X marks the spot, so aim right for the middle of the panel for the perfect headshot level as you're continuing your spray down left to right, and hopefully you're picking up kills in the meantime. Now let's cover the rest of Garage's wallbangs that are a little easier to pull off and you're going to be doing mid-round whenever things are getting a little hectic. Now coming out of Garage doors, the box on the right that you'll occasionally catch enemies forced to hide behind, maybe from a Phoenix Flash or you just caught them off guard, can be easily spammed through by aiming just above the gap that's in the hay that's overflowing. Now anything to the right of that will be hitting the wall, but feel free to spam a little bit to the left as well, just in case they're not right up against the wall holding that from you. And from the reverse angle, coming into Garage doors, the corner of the box is conveniently the perfect wall bang for the person tucked in behind that box. And once again, anything a little more to the right will hit the wall, but feel free to spam to the left as well, just in case. And before we move on, this is a great time to talk about how being aware of wallbangs is a very important part of game sense and can help you play much more efficient and safer angles throughout the entire game. Like this angle in grass where people like to hold garage push from. Now missing your shot or having to duck behind the box because of a Phoenix flash is usually going to be a death sentence because you can shoot through this box like butter from almost any angle. But instead you can post on a much safer angle that cannot be wall banged unless the opponent pushes way too aggressively out to get a good angle to kill you. Like this spot just above the boxes that put you behind a concrete wall if things get hairy. Now being aware of these wall bangs can save your life maybe once or twice a game, but it adds up. Keep these things in mind when you're choosing your angle to hold from, and you'll find yourself not getting wallbanged quite as much throughout the rounds. And from there we have the other part of mid. That's arguably just as important to keep control of, the mid window side, and the wallbang spots are honestly just as good. So to start with, we have the safe wallbang. Tuck yourself into the right of the metal box and scoot forward until you see a small portion of the wall by mid window. That portion, and specifically just to the right of the small gray rectangle on the wall, is exactly where the enemies will line up at by the spawn barrier. And if you look to your right, the gap between those two boards shows you the perfect headshot height. So from this position, use all three. Use your pings to help you know the general area, use that little gray rectangle to know where exactly you're supposed to be, and use those two boards to get you the perfect headshot height, and make this lineup a little as more consistent as you can. And if you're really gunning for that mid control, you can do a similar thing with the Odin, just more effectively. Now with the Odin, you're definitely going to want to use your pings, and just like before, ping beside the bi-phase barrier, and ping their exit point out the back of mid window this time. That way, whenever you start spraying down and the enemy starts scrambling for cover, you know exactly where to transfer your spray to finish off those kills. And if you don't manage to kill them in either of those spots, feel free to finish off your spray to the left just in case someone decides to tuck all the way in that corner. And of course, we have to have an operator lineup designed to specifically give you the most surface area from your bullet path to give you the highest chance of getting a headshot as possible. So simply line yourself up with the left edge of the archway and be right before the round. Aim on the right edge of the gray brick as shown, and the perfect headshot height will be at the bottom of the long gray brick on the right. Now of course you can always use your pings here, but with an operator you want that pixel perfect accuracy because you're only getting one shot and there's really no room for error. And of course there is always the opposite coin where the defenders love pushing down mid for control. So the easy counter to that is to pick up an Odin, tuck yourself in this corner, and use the bricks as your lineups once again. Now the rectangular brick on the right shows you the edge of the threshold in B site, and the stack of the bricks on the left shows you the edge of the left threshold. And once again, that little gray rectangle shows headshot height. So with this spray down, you can spray down everything in between those two spaces and completely shut down an entire mid push in its tracks. And when you're shooting out from mid window into B side without the Odin, I found the most consistent lineup is to tuck yourself in the right corner of mid window, aim at the bottom right of the gray brick, and it will be the perfect headshot level for anyone playing the left side of arches by B side attempting to push out. And this should be your go-to lineup for any Vandal, Operator, or even Sheriff to get you a free pick on an eco round. And not to mention, this is also the perfect headshot area for anyone playing on the C side of the metal box on B side as well, like we talked about earlier. This takes care of two fairly common positions with one lineup. But before we move on, this is a great time to talk about penetration values. So in Valorant, guns have 3 different penetration values: low, medium, and high. Now these values can be found in the bi-phase item shop as you scroll over a gun. But when you're wallbanging enemies, you're almost always going to want to be using a medium or high penetration value weapon. An example for this would be the walls that surround B site. Where the wooden threshold can be penetrated with a medium pin weapon fairly easily, the concrete cannot be shot through at all. But a high penetration weapon like the Odin cuts through that concrete like butter and can easily create a death trap for the enemy team to walk through whenever they're trying to retake control of that front side of B site. Now with mid control taken care of from both sides, let's move on to the angles you need to be looking at and the spots you need to know to pick up free kills whenever you get the opportunity. And now is a great time to be talking about when random wallbanging is going to be the most effective. So somewhere like pushing through a lobby, late in the round, you're not sure where an enemy could be playing, if they're even playing there. So you can wallbang from the left wall right at the center of the upside down triangle on this box just below the metal bracket at the top. Now using this wallbang allows you to clear that deep angle fully before you push into the lobby. This eliminates the most dangerous angle and allows you to focus on the other problem angles like down short or close left as well. But if you have the time, although you can shoot through this wooden threshold to clear the left angle, keep in mind that distance to and from the angle is crucial. Meaning that when an enemy is playing in a tight angle like left side of lobby, simply back away from the angle like this, and you'll often be able to see at least part of the enemy without them being able to see you at all, giving you free kills in a plethora of different areas on all of the different maps. And moving on from there, another great wallbang is going to be the wheelbarrow and sandbags just outside of a lobby. Now we're seeing this area get played more and more by high level teams, and the wallbang is honestly just very easy. Simply peek just past the box on the right, aim very slightly to the left of the box, and shoot one brick above where the bottom box and the top box meet. And from there, feel free to spray transfer 3 bricks down to the first gap in the bricks that you see, and that will be the perfect headshot height for anyone playing beside the wheelbarrow on ground level. But keep in mind, if you're not on the enemy's head here, it's going to take quite a few shots to kill if you're not using a high penetration value weapon. And from there, let's take a walk down short to the 2 angles that give teams nightmares on enemy save rounds, and they just refuse to push down A short because of it: the left and right side of the exit from sewers. Now these spots are actually quite simple and easy to clear out when enemies are playing the close angle with shotguns. So for the left side, simply tuck yourself against the wall, aim for head level, and fire. It cuts through the wall like butter and it gives you that perfect lineup to spray right through, and most people don't even know that you can spray through these walls. And for the right side, it's slightly more difficult, but you're going to want to get in line with the yellow newspaper on the ground and the wall, and aim just above the newspaper at headshot height, fire away. And with these 2 lineups, you really don't have to be afraid of shorties anymore, because if they're playing there, you can get that free kill and you take the side for free anyway. Now as we take a step back and walk down A long, we have 2 different angles that are near impossible or just way too risky to even try to wallbang. Now the first is going to be the concrete box in the middle of A lobby, where a tucked in enemy will be able to see just the edge of your body before you wallbang, making it a bit risky, and they can swing on you right when you start to spray. And as we exit onto the A site, we have another impossible to wallbang angle that is just very difficult to play against when pushing A site. This is because you can't actually shoot through the wall until you see that person, and you have to hard clear it. And at that point, you're already overextended onto the site and are in danger from other angles as well. And another important thing to notice throughout all of the wallbangs in Valorant, you cannot wallbang through 2 surfaces no matter how thin they are. Like this big box on A site. Although it shows you penetrating through that box, the bullets won't actually go through because they're hitting the box behind it and stopping. This is unless you're shooting through only one box. But this lineup is very simple to play around, it's just an example, and you just use the bottom of the caging of the box for the headshot level. Just make sure you're only spraying through one of the boxes. But there are certain anomalies to the way wallbanging works in Valorant, because there are some locations that we honestly just can't seem to figure out. At this point, we know that at both ends of the A site box that's in the middle of the site, there's a very small gap at both ends that you can actually wallbang through. But that gap is very inconsistent and difficult to find, and occasionally when you spam through the entire box, even through the tarp, a bullet or 2 will come out the other side. But overall, it's very inconsistent and honestly not worth the effort in game to try and get them through. But as always, and just like every other box, you can wallbang from the sides of the box in, so if you come in from an angle and you don't try to spam through the entirety of the box, you can get it to work. Also, a quick and important tip to remember: use the outlines of the boxes to show you where the headshot level actually is. It's a perfect way to know your pre-aim spot, and often you're going to be pushed off site, or you just need to create some room for yourself by pushing enemies out of the entrance to short. So whether you're getting pushed off of site, pushed around on site, or you're coming into site from connector, you can always use this wallbang to try to pick up a kill or just deny the enemies from actually coming in through that spot. And wallbanging through this box is honestly a really easy way to pick up kills, or at least scare the enemies into backing up a little bit to give yourself more room and time to play on the site. And the final area we need to cover on A site is Heaven, where medium penetration weapons have no chance of getting through. So if your Sova or Cypher manage to tag an enemy in Heaven, an Odin will cut through the floor like butter and honestly give you free kills while you're perfectly safe on top or bottom. And the same goes from when you're playing inside of Heaven and attempting to shoot down into Hell, to pick up an easy, cheesy kill and make the retake that much more possible because the other team is missing one person, all because you had an Ozen and a little bit of coordination. And before we leave A site, let's take a look at one of the best things you can do in A Heaven. So as enemies are entering the site, you're typically going to be smoked off in A Heaven. But here, you can use your pings on the minimap to show you the perfect angles for the wallbang into short. Walk yourself forward all the way to the wall so you're not going to be shooting the box in the middle of sight, and spam away to cut off that entrance into sight and actually kill anyone trying to retreat to or play that angle. And before we move on to C site, let's get a little bit cheesy and take a look at this wallbang from B bomb site down into sewers. Now it's a very simple wallbang, but a lineup is very difficult to manage, so simply use your pings and mark right underneath the arch that enemies have to walk through to get into short. This way you can mow them down as they're walking through the funnel or just stop them from going through that funnel at all. And where there is a wallbang, there is a counter wallbang, but this one's a little bit creative. So for this one, you're going to want to hop up on the boxes just in the corner of A short. Simply aim your weapon right in the center of the third panel from the right and spam away, killing anyone who decides to play on that box in sight. For this wallbang to work though, you're going to want to sneak down A short, because typically that player will rotate towards A site if they hear you running through sewers. And while the Odin is going to be the best for this wallbang, it can be done with a medium penetration weapon as well. You just have to step a little bit away from the wall and shoot deeper into the pocket to where the wall becomes penetrable. And the final Odin wallbang spot we have around B is arguably the most underused and overpowered wallbangs on the map, because it goes completely through the wall, through sewers, and out a lobby with the ability to kill anyone even right when the bot phase barriers go down, giving it too much utility. Now you can come up with a fancy lineup once again using the tiles on the ground and the grain on the door, but the easiest and most consistent way here is to use your pings. Simply ping underneath the arch, aim at the wood on the right side of the door, and spray away. Now if it's at the beginning of the round, you are fine just spraying straight ahead and moving left to right. But if they're pushing down sewers, ping the arch and the bottom of the ramp so you know where to transfer your spray to after your initial spray. Alright, now let's close out this video by going over the wallbangs on C site. Now these are a little bit trickier, but there's pretty much nothing to worry about walking your way up to C site aside from this close left clear with the Odin an enemy could have snuck up into. Simply line up yourself with the edge of the box closest to the wall, aim above the dark gray brick pile, and spray away. And when entering C site, we have the box on the right just outside of garage, which is arguably the most important wallbang on all of C site because it routinely gets free kills, and if not, it makes sure that your team doesn't have to clear that angle and turn completely around, exposing themselves to other angles, and you can keep playing together. Now the metal plate on this box is on the bottom and near the wall, meaning just above the metal stripe on the right corner of the box is the perfect headshot angle for anyone playing in that corner. Of course, feel free to spam a little bit further left after that, just in case they're playing an off angle. Moving on to the site though, there are a few tricky wallbangs to take note of, like this box at the back of C site. From the CT entrance to the site, the top left corner of the box isn't able to be spammed through, meaning a headshot on a person playing back there is actually impossible unless they're crouched. And if we take a look at the back of the box, we will see why. There's a metal sheet covering the top right corner of the box from this angle, meaning that the bullets will not go through at all, and you have to spam through the corner with no coverage. So when coming from the CT entrance, aim closer to the wall and farther down than headshot level to actually be able to hit that person that's playing behind that wall. And then the main box on site works the exact same way, just a bit more difficult and trickier to remember where. Now there's a big upside down triangle that cheating covers in the middle of the box that you cannot spam through, but the far left side of the box here can be spammed through, meaning that you can kill that person that keeps jiggle peeking you from behind the box with a wallbang if you're playing down C long. And past that upside down triangle right in the middle, the only other area that you cannot spam through is the top right of the box by the default plant location. Meaning if you're at the back of the box and the person's planting in default, you can't actually hit them unless you're aiming at their feet. Other than that, the box is fair game. And finally worth noting that whenever an enemy goes to plant, players like to jump up on logs and go for the wallbang or to tap the enemy's head right there. But the box is actually perfectly wallbangable from that angle from the ground, and you have to expose yourself to far fewer angles and have a much safer wallbang, because honestly stopping the plant is the most important thing here, and go and get that done the safest way possible. And remember, if you want to improve, win more gunfights, and get the rank you've always wanted, then check out SkillCapped.com. Link is in the description below. And that, my friends, is an extensive list on the most effective wallbangs on the map Haven, and a ton of strategies to add to your arsenal to make yourself a more well-rounded Valorant player, able to pull out more rounds in a variety of situations. As always, we here at SkillCapped want to thank you for watching. Make sure you let me know what you thought of the video and what you want to see next in the comments below. And as always, my name is Dub, signing off.